In college, I always hoped some wealthy woman would see through my facade. Never did I imagine that an old classmate would actually hand me a wealthy women's contact list. It was a group chat where I was like a lamb to the slaughter, offered up for the amusement of these affluent ladies. 01 My name is Songmeng, 27 years old, and buried under a mountain of debt. It wasn't due to gambling or laziness. My mother's severe illness was the reason. To cover her medical bills, I exhausted my savings and even took out multiple loans. At first, I could borrow from banks, but eventually, I had to resort to high-interest online loans to pay the exorbitant hospital fees. Every morning, I woke up to thousands in treatment costs and $500 or $600 in loan interest, a crushing weight that left me gasping for air. Staring at the hospital's payment reminders, I felt utterly helpless. With only a few hundred yuan left and having borrowed from every friend I had, where could I possibly find the money now? Just as I was at my wit's end, Qinyang, a long-lost friend, called. Hey, is this old song? What's up, Qinyang? Seeing his name flash on my screen, a flicker of hope ignited. Maybe I could borrow a little from him. I've got a lucrative opportunity for you. Interested? What kind of opportunity? A hint of suspicion crept in, and I grew wary. After all, when an old friend you haven't seen in years suddenly reaches out with a money-making scheme, it's often a scam. Sent you the details. With that, Qinyang hung up. I opened our chat and saw a group QR code with the name Happiness Life Prep Group. I was baffled. The name sounded so outdated. Annoyed, I fired off a message. Are you messing with me? First contact in ages, and you're already pulling my leg. Qinyang replied with a voice note. Wouldn't dare. I swear on my honor, it's legit. I'll send you a video as proof. You'll believe me then. Sure enough, a video arrived moments later. It opened with Qinyang's profile. Though we hadn't met in years, I recognized my old buddy instantly. As the camera panned, the scene came into view. A villa pool surrounded by bikini-clad women, all around their 30s, laughing and playing without a care for modesty. Luxury cars lined the perimeter, unfamiliar brands, but their opulence was unmistakable. The men were all muscular, with chiseled abs and chests. Something fell off, though. After a moment, I realized what it was. The men were serving the women, applying sunscreen, fetching drinks, while the women lounged and enjoyed themselves. It was nothing like the high society parties I'd seen on TV. See, no lies here. Join the group. We're adults. No need to spell out, right? Qinyang's suggestive tone made my heart race. Last time, I spent a week with a wealthy woman. Know how much I made? 300K. Ha! He reverted to his usual sleazy self. 300,000. With that, my mother's medical bills would be covered, and I could repay my friends. Over the past 6 months, I'd borrowed so much that some friends wouldn't even pick up my calls. The guilt weighed heaviest on those I owed the most. I scanned the QR code and joined without hesitation. True or not, I had to try. Things couldn't get worse than this. 02 Soon after, my application was approved. As soon as I entered the group, someone tagged me. Prep Group Inspector, Windwave Newcomer. Fill out the form in the group. I was a bit puzzled, but then a form popped up, giving me the answer. The form asked for personal details, measurements, a passport-sized photo, and even a recent medical report. This was way too strict, I thought. But then again, if Qinyang could pass, I probably wouldn't have much trouble. After all, back in school, he was just a scrawny kid. Besides, nowadays, everyone's information is practically public on the internet anyway. So handing over these details didn't seem like a big deal. Coincidentally, I had just undergone a medical checkup a few days ago when paying the hospital bill. I filled out the form, attached the report, and sent it back. After a short wait, a new group invite arrived. Glancing at the name, Happy Life, I clicked accept without hesitation. The moment I joined, several messages popped up. Wind and freedom. That guy from yesterday was really something. Any more recommendations? Ladies, Swaying Rose. The twink I found the other day was pretty good, a college student. Fair and tender, and his skills were top-notch. Cat's sister, Winwave O, a newcomer. Did Little Chun introduce you? Little Chun? That must be Qinyang. Winwave. Yeah. Qinyang referred me. Cat's sister. I've already checked his report. Good physique. No diseases. So, which sister wants to try him first? Swaying Rose. Me. It's been 2 days since my last one, and I'm practically drooling. No one better snatch him from me. What followed was a flurry of laughter and teasing in the group. Soon after, I received a friend request from Swaying Rose, who had just been chatting in the group. I accepted, but she didn't message me for a while. I could only stare blankly at the women's conversations, completely unable to chime in. Occasionally, a few men would jump into the chat, cracking jokes that sent the others into fits of laughter. As I read their explicit messages and browsed the revealing photos they shared, I started having second thoughts. Was this even legal? Didn't it count as prostitution? Was I really about to sell my body for money? A bitter laugh rose in my heart. I was a top graduate from a prestigious university, just starting to make progress in my career these past 2 years, and now I'd fallen so low that I was resorting to selling myself. Suddenly, a notification sound snapped me out of my thoughts. Swaying Rose, Tonight at 10 p.m. Room 1305. Legion Hotel. Just come straight in and knock when you arrive. I stare at the message, my emotions in turmoil. I replied, got it, sis. I'll be there on time. Knock, knock, knock. My phone rang. It was a call from my mother's hospital. Hello. Okay. I'll definitely pay tomorrow. Please, nurse, don't stop the treatment. I swear I'll pay tomorrow. After hanging up, I exhaled deeply, feeling as if a 1,000-pound boulder were pressing on my chest. Lately, I quit my job to take care of my mother, relying on odd jobs to get by. But now, I hadn't worked even those for days, since my mother often needed someone by her side. My schedule was too erratic, and the foreman had stopped hiring me. At 9:50 p.m., I stood outside room 1305 of Legion Hotel, took a deep breath, and gently knocked on the door. 03 soon. Footsteps approached from inside. With a click, the lock turned, and a wave of fragrant air wafted through the door. Swaying Rose stood before me. I had expected a haggard-looking woman, but I was wrong. She wore a wine-red dress that ended just above the knees, revealing snow-white calves and the plump curve of her thighs. A pair of Valentino heels reflected the warm glow of the room's lighting. Above her slender, delicate waist was a deep cleavage. Just one glance was enough to stir an irresistible urge to lose oneself in it. I was momentarily stunned. This was nothing like what I had imagined before coming here. What are you standing there for? Come in. The woman's cool voice snapped me out of my thoughts as she gracefully walked into the room and sat on the bed. Call me Sister Ling, she said, motioning for me to close the door. Not bad. The quality of newcomers keeps getting better. Sister Ling leaned lazily against the headboard, her eyes appraising me up and down. I stood awkwardly in front of her, unsure of what to do. Hello, Sister Ling. What's wrong? You're like a little rabbit, she teased, her playful gaze fixed on me. And I wasn't exaggerating. I had never seen a woman over 40 maintain herself so flawlessly. Her skin was taut and radiant, showing no signs of age, looking every bit like a woman in her late 20s. She exuded an undeniable mature charm, and the gentle warmth in her eyes made my heart skip a beat. If Chunyang hadn't described her to me beforehand, I probably wouldn't have believed her age. Suddenly, Sister Ling stood and walked over to me, her intoxicating fragrance instantly filling my senses. She gently rested her head near my ear, her warm breath brushing against my skin, sending a shiver through my entire body. A wave of heat surged from deep within, and my heart pounded wildly. She placed a hand lightly on my chest, and the rapid thudding beneath her fingers made her raise an eyebrow. So nervous, she chuckled. I won't tease you anymore. Go take a shower. I've already washed. Watching her turn and return to the bed, I murmured an acknowledgement before heading into the bathroom. I'd already cleaned myself thoroughly before coming, knowing full well what I was here for. So, after a quick rinse, I dried off and wrapped myself in a bathrobe before stepping out. As I was still drying my hair, Sister Ling rose from the bed and approached me, her heels clicking rhythmically against the floor, each step seeming to echo in my chest. The sway of her dress as she walked seemed to flaunt her alluring figure. It was only then that I noticed she had applied a light layer of makeup at some point, glowing under the room's soft lighting. Her delicate collarbones held an unusual beauty, and her fair neck tempted me with the urge to press my lips against it. Even though I was 27, I had barely held a girl's hand before. Faced with such a mature woman now, how could I possibly suppress the restlessness inside? Sister Ling reached me and suddenly grabbed my bathrobe, pulling me close. Let your sister take a good look at you. Straight to the point. We're all wealthy women, this assertive. My breathing grew heavier. I didn't know what to do. Should I take the initiative? Would it upset her? As I hesitated, Sister Ling took out a small pill and held it to my lips. I recognized it as an enhancer and, without hesitation, opened my mouth and swallowed it. Seeing my compliance, she smiled in satisfaction. Such a good boy, she cooed, stroking my cheek. Let your sister take good care of you. Her voice was tender as she gently cupped my chin, forcing me to meet her gaze. Her red lips parted, and the warmth of her breath washed over my face. Now I truly understood what it meant to have breath as sweet as orchids. She gently caressed my cheek, her voice soft, then lightly pinched my chin, forcing me to meet her gaze. Her crimson lips exhaled warm breath that rushed straight to my face. Now I truly understood what it meant to have breath as fragrant as orchids. Lingjia pouted and teased. You're such a grown man, yet you're still so shy. As she spoke, she glanced at my hands resting stiffly at my sides. I think she was hinting for me to take the initiative. I don't have much experience. Lingjia, I stammered under her domineering gaze. Lingjia pressed lightly against me, her lips brushing my ear. Oh, so I've stumbled upon quite the bargain. Then, the pills I'd taken earlier were kicking in, and my body's response grew increasingly intense. My hands instinctively found their way to Lingjia's smooth back, tracing slow, wandering paths. Sensing my shift, Lingjia grew bolder in her teasing, stoking the restless fire in my chest. Why should I, a grown man, let her dominate me? I wanted to be the one in control. At that moment, the primal urge to conquer completely overrode my reason. In one swift motion, I flipped her against the wall, my hot breath spilling over her lips, seeing not just acceptance, but a flicker of anticipation in Lingjia's eyes. I buried my face against her, and just like that, the night passed. The next day, I didn't wake until noon. Lingjia had already left. Though it was nearly 12, no one had come to hurry me out, probably because she'd arranged it. The moment I got out of bed, a dull ache pulsed in my lower back. What a tormenting enchantress. The room was a mess, littered with remnants of last night's revelry, clothes strewn everywhere, crumpled paper on the floor, the damp bathroom doorway. It all felt like a dream. Without those pills, I'd have been spent by midnight, even with my gym routine. My limbs were weak now. Lingjia was no ordinary woman to handle. Holding my sore back, I used the bathroom before returning to bed and grabbing my phone. A transfer notification from Lingjia glowed on the screen. 50,000 yuan. My mother's medical bills were covered. I quickly sent the payment to the hospital, noticing 4 or 5 missed calls, all from the hospital. After transferring the money, I called them back to confirm my mother was still receiving treatment. Only then did the knot in my chest loosen. Lying back to recover, I reopened the Happy Life group chat. A notification showed someone had tagged me. Scrolling up, I saw Lingjia's message. Swaying rose. The new guy's quite something. Ladies, if you're interested, better move fast. Below were 2 photos of me shirtless in bed. A chorus of wealthy women chimed in below, checking my friend requests. I found 2 new additions. I chuckled bitterly, rubbing my still aching back. I'm human, not livestock. If this keeps up daily, I'll earn money, but have no life left to spend it. After accepting the requests, I packed up and left the hotel. Just as I stepped outside, Chen Yang called. Not bad. Kid, you went all out last night. Lingjia's tastes are picky, but you serve her well. Listening to him, I could only sigh inwardly. Don't even mention it. I'm wrecked. Barely survived yesterday, and now 2 more friend requests. My body can't take this. Relax. They won't eat you alive. Just rest up, then pop into the group when you're ready. They'll know you're open for business again. Hanging up, I headed straight to the hospital. 05 arriving at the hospital. I stood quietly by the glass window, watching my mother asleep in the room. A wave of sorrow welled up in my heart. When I was a child, my mother divorced my father and raised me all by herself. The hardships she endured were perhaps beyond others' comprehension. Just as our lives were beginning to improve, my mother fell seriously ill. In the corridor, nurses and doctors bustled back and forth, while family members sat on the floor or chairs, cradling their heads in their hands. A thought crossed my mind. Hospitals witness more sincere prayers than churches. Over the next 2 days, I not only paid the hospital bills in full, but also indulged in a rare moment of relaxation. The freedom from striving for tomorrow or worrying about money was intoxicating. I sent a message in the group chat, signaling that I was well rested and ready to take on new clients. That very afternoon, one of the 2 wealthy women who had previously added me reached out. Dream wedding. Come to room 2106 at Lijiang Hotel at 9 p.m. Make sure you're clean. After replying, I began preparing for the night's work. After all, this kind of thing didn't require much learning. It was all just human instinct. At the appointed time, I arrived at room 2106 and knocked on the door. Footsteps approached from inside. Though I had some experience by now, my heart still pounded with nervousness. The door opened, and I froze in place. This time, a man answered the door. What the hell? Wasn't this a group for wealthy women? Why was there a man here? Was I really about to play the bottom? The thought made me clench my buttocks instinctively, my stomach twisting with unease. The man, noticing my hesitation, seemed to guess my thoughts and said softly, "Relax, bro. I'm just like you." His words eased my embarrassment. Apparently, this was the wealthy woman's personal preference, a double act. The man looked slightly younger than me, with a clean, sunny appearance. It was hard to believe he was in the same line of work, since it was my first time collaborating with someone else. I still felt a bit awkward. Once inside, my eyes lit up at the sight of the woman. No. The girl, wrapped in a bathrobe, fresh from the shower. She was more of a girl than a woman, with an innocent face and large, lively eyes brimming with youthful energy. Her skin, peeking out from the robe, was smooth and fair, and her long, dark hair clung damply to her shoulders. "You're here. Go take a shower. I'll dry my hair. Xiao Lu, get the props ready," she said. The man who had opened the door for me, Xiao Lu, nodded and led me to the bathroom. Through conversation, I learned the girl was a masochist who enjoyed intense play. She was only 23. I knew it. She was no mature woman. No amount of upkeep could turn a woman back into a girl. Xiao Lu showered first, and I followed afterward. As I rinsed off, the sound of a whip cracking and the girl's cries, a mix of pain and excitement, echoed from the room. They'd already started. People these days really went all out, though reluctant. The thought of the hefty payout afterwards steeled my resolve. When I stepped out of the shower, they pulled me into the fray. Once the mood was set, the girl, like Ling Jia, produced 2 pills. They were the same kind of enhancers Ling Jia had given me. Could 2 men still not satisfy her? 06 at the sight of the pills. Xiao Lu's eyes gleamed, his breathing growing ragged. I was a bit puzzled. With such a stunning beauty right in front of him earlier, he hadn't reacted so strongly. Yet now, faced with this tiny pill, why was he so excited? Xiao Lu took the pill and decisively swallowed it in one gulp. Instantly, an expression of extreme comfort spread across his face. When he opened his eyes again, there was a slight change. His gaze had grown somewhat hazy. The girl handed the pill to me, signaling me to take it quickly. Her brows furrowed slightly, clearly displeased with my hesitation. This pill didn't seem to have any special effects. Why had Xiao Lu reacted like that? Whatever, since nothing had happened the last time I took it, and for the sake of money, I'd go for it. I grabbed the pill and shoved it into my mouth. Before long, the effects began to kick in. The restraint I'd felt earlier melted away, replaced by a sensation of floating among the clouds. Gradually, I started actively joining Xiao Lu and the girl in their activities until I was completely immersed. That night, I felt incredibly satisfied, but when I woke up, an inexplicable emptiness filled my heart. What was wrong with me? Had I gotten addicted to this after just one time? Yet last night, when I saw another man with me, I felt a distinct sense of disgust deep down. Could I really be that kind of person? I shook my head, and a wave of headache hit me, my temples throbbing. We'd drunk a lot late into the night, and I'd never experienced such euphoria before, like drifting through mist. But the hangover misery was just as intense. The bed was empty except for me. If not for the scattered clothes and tissues on the floor, I might have thought the whole night had been a dream. I picked up my phone and checked my bank account, 110,000 yuan. Last night alone, I'd earned 100,000. It was beyond anything I dared to imagine. In an instant, all the pain in my body seemed to vanish. My mother's surgery would cost around 400,000 yuan, plus the money I owed, about 500,000 in total. At this rate, I'd be able to save up soon. A surge of joy rushed through me. Happiness had come too suddenly. I wanted to thank Xinyang properly. If he hadn't introduced me to this group, I wouldn't have been able to save up so quickly. I called Xinyang on video chat, and after a short while, he picked up. On the screen, he had dark circles under his eyes, his gaze listless. Back in school, he'd been the athletic type, ranking among the top in training. How had he ended up like this? Did he go thieving last night or something? I teased him. You're the thief, Xinyang retorted, yawning mid-sentence. Just haven't been sleeping well these past couple of days. He looked exhausted. I really owe you one. If you hadn't introduced me to this gig, I wouldn't have made so much money so fast. And my words. Xinyang's expression turned strange, half smiling, as if hiding something. It's nothing. Nothing. We're bros. That's what friends do. He replied, awkwardly. If there's nothing else, I'm gonna hang up. Too tired. Need more sleep. Seeing how worn out he looked, I didn't want to keep him any longer and was about to end the call. Just as I pressed the button, his camera shifted slightly, catching a glimpse of his bedside, and 4 drip tube was placed next to Xinyang's bed. Confused, I wanted to ask, but the call had already disconnected. 07 was Xinyang sick, but that bed didn't look like a hospital's, more like a cheap motel, with plain white sheets and a slightly worn-out headboard. Never mind, I'd visit him in a few days and thank him properly then. Time passed in this relaxed atmosphere, and a month later, I had over 400,000 in my hands. It wasn't that I had spent recklessly, but rather that I had repaid part of my loans and debts to friends. After all, it wouldn't do to have money and not pay anyone back at all. But I found myself growing stranger by the day. At first, I kept taking jobs every 3 or 4 days. But lately, if I went even a single day without one, my body would feel as if ants were crawling under my skin. Every time I took the stimulant pills given by my female clients, I felt as though my body was released and relieved. This made me sink deeper into it, almost unable to extricate myself. 2 days later, Sister Ling sent me a message. Accompany me for a week tomorrow, and I'll give you 300,000. Looking at Sister Ling's words, I suddenly felt a sense of déjà vu. Or had I seen this before? For a moment, I couldn't recall, but the thought of having a job to take made me uncontrollably excited. I transferred all 400,000 from my car to the hospital and signed a surgery consent form. My mother's condition couldn't be delayed any longer. Any further delay might render the surgery meaningless. I decided to quit after this last job with another 300,000. I could pay off all my debts and still have over 100,000 left. What truly worried me wasn't the illegality of these transactions, but those stimulant pills. I was practically obsessed with them. The moment I saw Sister Ling's message, my first thought wasn't about the money. It was that I could take those pills again. I had tried buying similar drugs, but none gave me that soaring, euphoric feeling. Nor could they soothe the restlessness in my heart. Before leaving, I called my childhood friend to arrange everything, then set off for the villa Sister Ling had designated. When I arrived, I glanced at the pool behind the villa, and a chill ran through me. This was exactly the scene Xinyang had shown me. Sister Ling was already waiting by the pool when I got there. Seeing me standing frozen on the opposite side, she waved at me. Strangely, I felt no aversion to this gesture now, even though it felt like a master summoning their pet dog. Sister Ling wore a bikini, her seductive curves fully exposed. Though I'd seen all kinds of beauties over the past month and was no longer easily impressed, my heart still raced uncontrollably every time I saw her. What's wrong? Has it been so long that you don't recognize me? Sister Ling stood before me, the afternoon sun casting a glow around her, making her seem radiant. Of course not, Sister Ling, for a woman like you. A day apart feels like 3 years. I flattered, lightly wrapping an arm around her slender waist. Since when did you learn to be such a smooth talker? She playfully pushed my shoulder. I wonder if your skills have improved along with your sweet words. Why don't you find out for yourself? Sister Ling, I whispered close to her ear. Sister Ling forcefully pushed away my wandering hands and walked to a nearby table, picking up a pill. Here, she held it out to me. For some reason, that pill held my gaze far more intensely than Sister Ling herself. My breathing grew heavy as I reached out, took it, and swallowed in one gulp. Instantly, a wave of comfort spread through my body. Even before arriving at the villa, I had been craving this pill unbearably. Now that I'd taken it, my tension melted away, and my vision grew hazy, seeing my state. Sister Ling chuckled softly. Come catch me. If you do, there's a reward. I watched as Sister Ling jumped into the pool, a surge of restless heat rising in my chest, my body instantly stiffening. Without hesitation, I plunged into the water after her. A week flew by in the blink of an eye, and I still felt a lingering sense of unfulfillment. But the pain in my waist was a clear warning, one more day of this, and I might not be able to take it. On the 7th day, when I woke up again, everything had changed. I wasn't in the villa's bedroom anymore, but in a basement. There was no light, not even a window, just a few dim bulbs hanging from the ceiling. I tried to move, but my body was weak and limp. My hands and feet bound. Panic set in as I strained to look around. But the sight before me sent a chill through my heart. To my right was Qinyang, but he was barely recognizable, frail, his eyes struggling to stay open, dark circles heavy beneath them, his cheekbones protruding sharply. His body was emaciated, almost skeletal. Old song. Qinyang rasped when he saw me wake. I'm sorry. I had no choice. They threatened me with a knife. And that pill. It was drugs. Once I took it, I couldn't stop. Look at your own mouth. It's covered in drool. His words sent a jolt through me. It was true. I never used to drool in my sleep. But lately, I'd wake up to a soaked pillow, having to change the case constantly. This one's almost done for. Just take him out. Sell what you can. No point wasting resources. The voice sounded familiar. I struggled to turn my head and saw the woman who had spoken. It was Sister Ling. Sister Ling, why? Why would you? I felt exhausted. Even speaking took effort. She walked up to me, gently caressing my cheek, just as tenderly as when we first met. My dear little brother, don't blame me. I'm just trying to survive. Then, a mocking smile slowly spread across her face. Rage burned inside me. But I was powerless. All I could do was watch as Sister Ling directed a group of foreign men, white, with menacing faces, to take Qinyang away. They had mentioned selling something earlier. The sight of those men filled me with dread, just as they were busy moving Qinyang. The blare of a police siren shattered the oppressive atmosphere. It was over. 2 weeks later, Sister Ling and her criminal gang stood trial. It turned out they had been trafficking drugs in China and dealing in human organs. To secure a steady supply, they targeted healthy adult men, luring them step by step into their trap. Once they had them under control, like me, they'd force them to call friends and drag them into the scheme. Refusal meant no relief from the drug-induced torment and threats to their lives. Qinyang was an example. Every call was monitored, the slightest hint of suspicion, and they'd end you with a knife. Drug trafficking carries severe penalties in China. They were all sentenced to death, even the 4 men who screamed for deportation. No exceptions, all executed by firing squad, before entering rehab. I visited my mother in the hospital one last time, seeing her slowly recovering after surgery. I entrusted the last of my savings to my childhood friend. I called him the moment I sensed something was wrong, arranging everything in advance. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unthinkable. A month later, I was released from rehab. My friend picked me up and took me back to the hospital. My mother had improved. She could even get out of bed for rehabilitation exercises now. Tears welled in her eyes as she looked at me, and my heart ached with guilt. Qinyang passed away. By the time the police rescued him, it was already too late. The excessive drugs had long pushed his body to its limit. Gambling, drugs, and prostitution. Just dabbling in one of these can lead to the ruin of your family in no time. I hope everyone stays clear of crossing legal boundaries and spares their loved ones from suffering.